Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. Gonna read through the majority of the article here. There's a link in the description. I need to give you a trigger warning. This is an absolutely terrible case of torture and the murder of an 8-year-old boy at the hands of the father, the absolute piece of shit, evil scumbag, psychopath that you see in front of you, Michael Valva, an New York PD police officer, or rather a former New York PD police officer, Michael Valva. We'll look through the details in a moment. I need to point out that this article was published November the 5th, so I am quite slow in going over this topic. Actually, I went over it at the time, put it to one side. It was a little bit too disturbing. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. Gonna read through, as I say, the majority of the article, and I need to give you a trigger warning. There are some details here that you might find troubling. Thomas Valva was just 8 years old when he froze to death in the garage of his Long Island home in New York. Prosecutors argued that the boy's father, 43-year-old former NYPD police officer Michael Valva, knowingly forced the child, Thomas Valva, as well as his 10-year-old brother, to sleep on the concrete floor of the unheated garage. They were forced to sleep on the floor of the unheated garage after they had both been hosed down with freezing water. This happened in the middle of winter, with temperatures dropping to under 20 degrees. He hosed Thomas Valva, 8-year-old boy, and his 10-year-old brother, hosed them down with freezing water, forced them to sleep on the concrete floor of their unheated garage in the middle of winter. The jury unanimously found this piece of shit, Michael Valva, ex-NYPD police officer, guilty on one count of second-degree murder in relation to the death of his own 8-year-old son, Thomas Valva. In addition, this scumbag, this piece of shit, was found guilty on 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. Thomas died on January the 20th, 2020, after going into cardiac arrest brought on by hypothermia. His body temperature was reportedly only 76 degrees when he arrived at Long Island Community Hospital. Michael Valva's former fiancée, Angela Polina, 45 years of age, was also charged with 1 count each of second-degree murder and child endangerment in regards to Thomas Valva's death. She's pleaded not guilty. A date for her trial has not yet been set. So to clarify, the father's trial has come to an end. He has been found guilty of 1 count of second-degree murder and also 4 counts on endangering the welfare of a child. Michael Valva's former fiancée is also facing her own charges, but the trial has not taken place for her as yet. The father, Michael Valva, initially tried to pass off his son's death as an accident. He told investigators that Thomas fell. They were trying to catch up to the school bus. Thomas fell. That's what caused his head and facial injuries, according to the father. The investigators didn't believe it. They could identify the inconsistencies with the facts and the defendant's version of events. At the time of the murder, the father, Michael Valva, had custody of his 3 sons, aged 6, 8, and 10. His former fiancée, Angela Polina, had 3 daughters, a 6-year-old and twin 11-year-old girls. Prosecutors said that Thomas Valva, the 8-year-old boy that died, as well as his brother, had been locked in the garage without heat for approximately 16 hours before Thomas succumbed to the brutal conditions. The children, both of whom were on the autism spectrum, were reportedly sent to the garage as punishment for accidentally urinating and defecating inside of the house. Punishment. You subject your children to punishment. Your 8-year-old boy, your 10-year-old boy. Punishment. They do something wrong, you punish them. You lock them in a garage for 16 hours. You hose them down with freezing water. You force them to sleep on the cold concrete. You give them hypothermia. You do this in the middle of winter. You're evil. I'm going to say this. I'm not a parent. I never will be a parent in all likelihood. I don't know. Things might happen. But I'm not a parent. But I am against corporal punishment. I used to follow Stefan Molyneux, who is a very controversial figure. He's a controversial figure. People do not like Stefan Molyneux. But he used to talk about parenting quite a lot based on the non-aggression principle. He's not the only one to talk on this matter. He's just the guy that I came across that will talk about this. But he just points out that corporal punishment is doesn't work, and it's so unfair. It is brutality. You have a grown adult. This is a former NYPD police officer in his 40s, a fully grown adult. A weighty adult. If he's carrying muscle, if he's carrying whatever it is, men are big and strong, particularly compared to children. An 8-year-old boy, a 10-year-old boy, what are they? Skin and bones, They don't have any strength. So you have a 43-year-old man who's gone through physical training to be a police officer, weight training, maybe even steroids, whatever. They can inflict too much damage on a child. It's like bullying. It's worse than bullying. It's like being attacked by a wild beast. If you're attacked by a bear, if you as a grown adult are attacked by a bear, that's roughly equivalent of a child being attacked by a grown adult. They are vulnerable. They are defenseless. Corporal punishment, is just wrong and evil. And this guy subjected his 2 boys, 8 and 10 years of age, to hideous treatment, which led to the death of Thomas Valva, the 8-year-old boy, who, along with his brother, was on the autism spectrum. Why can't you just show these boys some love and support? And if as a parent, if as a father or a mother, if you're not in a position to act in a decent manner, for whatever reason, if you just can't cut it, if you are too much of an asshole, if you have too much evil within you and you cannot cope with the problems, the stress that a child presents. Don't get me wrong, I don't have children, but I can see that they present problems. I can see that they present stress. Scribbling on the walls with crayon, whatever it happens to be. Accidentally defecating, accidentally urinating. These are problems. I get it. They'd be frustrating. Sure. But this is what you sign up for as a parent. You're aware that children are not robots. You're aware that children are not grown adults. Yeah, you're aware that as a parent, you have a legal and moral responsibility to care for them regardless of the situation. And if these parents can't cut that, then, why can't they just call the adoption agencies? Why can't they just move forward to the authorities? Hey guys, look, I feel embarrassed about this, but I don't feel that I'm capable of providing my children with the adequate care and love and support that they need. I've tried, but there's something lacking within me which doesn't allow me to do it. I would like to arrange for the children to be put in the care of the state or to be given to loving adoptive parents that can give them the support that they need. I wish I were able to do that, but I'm not. I don't know, man. These parents, they ought to be able to identify that they're acting in evil, horrendous ways, and they ought to do something about it. If they can't control themselves, they need to release these children, these babies, from their harm. I wonder if there could be, more social pressure to encourage that, or I wonder if that could be promoted more, to parents. If you are a bad parent, take this option, put the children up for adoption. Am I being ridiculous here? Maybe I am, but in any case, I'm going to go back to the article. Prosecutors also reportedly presented evidence that Michael Valva and his former fiancée had been physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive towards both of the two boys for months prior to Thomas's death. Michael Valva texted his former fiancée saying, "I will beat them until they bleed. It's the only thing that works." Further, prosecutors allege that both of the boys were intentionally starved. They were observed literally eating crumbs off of the floor at school. I read this article a couple of weeks back, and that's just popped up in my mind several times since. Literally eating crumbs off of the floor. Can you imagine that? Eating crumbs off the floor at school. How much wrongness is going on there? Fucking hell, society is such bullshit, man. Like, where are the witnesses? Teachers. Hello, teachers. In America, don't you have like about half a dozen therapists in each school? You've got nurses, you've got counselors, you got principals, you got vice principals. How many staff do you have in your United States schools? And not a single one of them can fucking realize that these 8 and 10-year-old autistic boys, they're on the autism spectrum, none of them could identify how poorly they were being treated, that they were being starved. How starving would they have to be to literally eat crumbs off of the floor? They would have to be properly starved to do that. Where are the eyes and the brains in these teachers, in these school personnel? These boys have been let down severely. Thomas Valva has had his life taken away. Tortured, beaten, starved by his own father. The former fiancée, she knew about it. She received texts from the father, "I will beat them until they bleed. It's the only thing that works." She knew. She's facing her own trial. It hasn't happened yet. I hope she gets exactly what she deserves. If she's complicit, if she was an enabler, if she turned a blind eye, don't worry about it, boys. You'll get over it. Fuck enablers. I'm sick of enablers. Throughout all aspects of life, enabling is awful and has to be eradicated. People that enable in this way or that need to be shamed. And I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there. I think we all turn a blind eye on some occasions. We all do. If you have a close friend or family member that does something slightly wrong, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but yeah, whatever, we'll give it a pass. You know, there is some leeway that we give each other, and we're not always consistent. We can be hypocritical, but by and large, enabling of behavior which causes real harm, especially when it's continued, especially if, you know, when it's particularly damaging, it's not acceptable to enable such behavior. If you're aware of it, you have to fucking act. You have to stand up. And if you see your neighbor stand up and object to somebody else's behavior, give them some support. Listen to them. Oh, you're saying that person over there is doing that bad thing. Oh, okay, well, tell me more. Let's look into this. Is this true? Let's find out. Hey, buddy, what's this that you're being accused of? What's going on here? Let's take a look at it. I mean, in my life, I don't go on too much of a tangent, but I've called people out a lot of times and I never get support. So, you know, from here on out, I'm not inclined to call people out. I've tried it too many times. It's failed too many times. I've been let down by others too many times. The sensible thing is not to do it anymore. It's a real shame. Society needs to change on so many levels. Society sucks, man. Society is bullshit. Here we are in society. We've got an 8-year-old boy being tortured, starved, beaten, forced to stay in a cold garage, unheated garage in the middle of winter for 16 hours in a day, hosed down with freezing water, forced to sleep on the concrete floor. He develops hypothermia. Thanks, Dad, you motherfucking cunt. You fucking piece of shit. Michael Valva faces a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. Good. Let me give you my 2 cents worth. New York. This happened in Long Island. A well-to-do area, no? Here's my 2 cents. New York. Life in prison. Done. Life in prison. He is fully responsible for the death of his 8-year-old boy, Thomas Valva. Further, he's been found guilty of 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. That ought to be children. We know that he subjected his 10-year-old son to this mistreatment as well. Thankfully, his 10-year-old son has survived. But seemingly the 10-year-old son, Thomas's older brother, was subjected to the exact same horrendous treatment. Perhaps Michael Valva should have been charged with attempted murder of the 10-year-old brother. So, New York authorities, give him life in prison. You found him guilty of multiple counts, including second-degree murder. He tortured, starved, froze his own son to death. Lock him up, throw away the key. Gonna wrap things up here, guys. I've got one more video which is very, very dark. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it tonight. I think I will. But anyway, thanks for listening. Take care.